सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सच्चिदानंद रूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्म विद्वरम्। हरि ओम, salutations to all. So we are seeing the different worships being done by Bhagwan in various varshas, and different forms are being worshipped, and each form the mantra also has been given, and we also have the glory of that form being described. So we saw Ilavrata Varsha, Bhagwan Shiva is worshipping Sankarshana. Bhadrashva Varsha, Bhadrashrava is worshipping Hayagriva. Ketumala Varsha, Lakshmi, Prajapati, Samvatsara and his children are worshipping Kamdeva or Pradyumna. Ramyaka Varsha is where Vaivasvata Manu is worshipping Matsya Narayana. So that is what we have to take up now. So in this 5th canto, 18th discourse, we are in this 24th mantra. And so here it says, in the Ramyaka Varsha, the present Manu, who is Shraddha Deva, who is the son of Surya Bhagwan, known by the name of Satyavrata in the 6th or the Chakshusha Manvantara. So this present Manu adores Matsya Narayana Bhagwan with great devotion. This form of Matsya Narayana was revealed at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, when the whole world was inundated by the ocean. And what is the mantra with which he adores? Om Namo Bhagavate Mukhyatamaya Namaha Satvaya Pranaya Ujase Sahase Balaya Mahamatsyaya Nama Iti. So he worships the Lord with this beautiful mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Mukhyatamaya Namaha. So salutations to the Lord who is revealed as Om Mukhyatamaya Namaha. Then Satvaya, who is an embodiment of Sattva, full of Sattva, without mixture of Rajas and Tamas, meaning the purest. Satvaya, Pranaya Aujase, who is a very life-giving Prana Shakti, who is very strength. Sahase Balaya, who is the source of all the potency of the Indriyas. Mahamatsyaya Namaha. So to that Mahamatsya, the great divine fish who protected the whole creation. The story, all of you know, it will come later also. One species of each, male and female of each species, one pair of each species was in the boat, and the Satyavrat Raja, he prayed and Bhagwan manifested as the fish, saved them all. And so he worships with this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Mukhyatamaya Namaha Satvaya Pranaya Ujase Sahase Balaya Mahamatsyaya Namaha Iti. And that glory of Bhagwan is further described after this in the 26, 27, 28, three shlokas. So, where he says that just like a puppeteer controls the dolls, the puppets, you control all the living beings. You are in everyone's heart as well as outside. And the so-called leaders also cannot realize you, meaning cannot realize you as an object. Bhagwan can be known only as the truth, as the self in our own heart. And that's why he says everyone's heart. And not only is in the heart, outside also. So when we live in the world, we serve with the attitude Bhagwan alone is all this. And when we meditate on the Lord as consciousness. So there are different forms which people worship. Some people may feel, or who will worship Bhagwan in the Matsya Narayan form. But there are people who will worship the fishermen, etc. For him, Matsya Narayan is the Lord. And so mantras are there. The mantra for japa that was given. And then what is the bhav when one does the chant the mantra? This is the bhav. That Bhagwan is the one who is the supreme controller. He is not just a fish. Narayana has come in the form of the fish. It is not that Bhagwan became the fish. Bhagwan can assume any form, but he is fully aware of his nature as infinite consciousness. And so when we worship, the bhav has to be that Bhagwan is the Supreme Lord who is the puppeteer, who controls everything, who is the Ishvara. And though in everyone's heart and outside as well, not easy to realize unless the mind has been purified. Those whose minds are purified, and they say that through the Vedic chants and mantras, etc., those who have purified the mind, they can come to realize the truth. Then, so many devatas are there, Indra and Varuna, Vayu, so many devatas are there. It is said here that even these devatas are envious of your authority. Without your help, they can neither separately nor unitedly protect all the living beings. They were not able to protect. Though Indra is the presiding deity for rain, it was raining ceaselessly, the whole earth is flooded. Devatas were not able to protect. Bhagwan only had to protect all the species. So, he says that you are the actual maintainer of all the living beings, two-legged, four-legged, without legs, or the plants, or even the planets. He says you are the real protector. And so, last one shloka here, he says that holding this earth, which is a storehouse of plants, creepers, etc., including myself, this uh, Shraddha Deva, who was that time Satyavrata, he says, you protected me, you protected the earth, you protected all the living beings. So you are the birthless Lord. You sported far and wide with great vigor in the ocean. That was so much in, uh, there were a lot of waves, high waves rising, tsunami type of waves rising. And he says, Bhagwan, you are the true protector. So, glory to such a Lord who is the inner controller of all the beings. Now, the point to understand here is we may or may not worship Matsya Narayan Bhagwan in that form, but Bhagwan only is the true protector. If that much we take in, that is what will give us a lot of faith, security, strength. There may be people who are there to help us, Bhagwan only sends them. The true protector is the Lord alone. And hence we must seek the refuge of Bhagwan. In good times also and in difficult times also. In difficult times we may feel as though God has forsaken us, but Bhagwan never forsakes. Difficult times we may feel, somebody will help us out, some person may help us out. We may seek help, not a problem, but Deep down, one should have the feeling Bhagwan is the true protector. I first surrender to Bhagwan and then do whatever is required. And even when somebody helping me, I should know that is Bhagwan helping us through that person. Because Bhagwan is the inner controller of all of them also. If Bhagwan does not prompt them, they will not help. So who is truly helping? Who is truly protecting? Bhagwan alone is protecting. So that way, even the most difficult times can become a means to strengthen our faith. For a devotee, the difficult times will become a means to strengthen the faith. For a non-devotee, the difficult times one may become more dejected, depressed, and lose what even little belief that one had, and may even become non-believer. So the devotee will have this bhav. So now this was in this Ramyaka Varsha. Then we go to this Hiranmaya Varsha, where Bhagwan is worshipped in the form of a Kurma. Hiranmaye api Bhagavan nivasati Kurmatanum bibhrana bibhranastasya tat priyatamam tanurmayam tanur uh, tanumaryama saha varsha purushaihi. So Bhagwan lives there in the Hiranmaya Varsha in the form of the divine tortoise. So the Kurma avatar. Now, along with the devatas of this subdivision of the earth, Aryama, the lord of the hosts of the mains, Aryama is the one who presides over the Pitraloka. And along with all the mains, Varsha Purushahi, Pitraganadhi Patihi Upadhavati Mantramimam Cha Anujapati. And so there he lives with the Pitrus, with the denizens of the Pitraloka, and Aryama worships Bhagwan. Each place there is one person who is worshipping, right? Vaivasvata Manu is worshipping Matsya avatar. So Aryama is worshipping Kurma avatar in this Hiranmaya Varsha. So what is the mantra? Om Namo Bhagavate Akuparaya Sarva Sattva Guna Visheshanaya Anupalakshita Sthanaya Namo Varshmane Namo Bhumne Namo Namo Avasthanaya Namaste. Such a long mantra. All mantras, if you have seen till now, they all are very, very long mantras. So, mantra, when it is long, it provides more description, more qualities of Bhagwan also. And japa of that mantra will take longer time. And imagine if you have to do Purascharan of this mantra. As many alphabets, that many lakh times. Om Namo Bhagavate Akuparaya Sarva Sattva Guna Visheshanaya Anupalakshita Sthanaya Namo Varshmane Namo Bhumne Namo Namo Avasthanaya Namaste. My God. How many? Almost 53 or even 58 alphabets. That many lakh times one has to do japa of this. And devotees who worship Bhagwan in the particular form, they will do also. Because it's written there, Japati. So what does this mantra mean? So Namaha comes many times in there. So salutations, salutations to the Lord who is who? Divine tortoise. Indicated by the syllable Om. And possessed of a form, again fully made up of Sattva Guna, whose position is not open to perception. One can't see the Lord through physical senses. In this context, because Bhagwan is under the water in the oceans, then he is the most ancient one, and Varshmane, and who is omnipotent, omnipresent, who is all pervasive, and who is the support of all. Avasthanaya Namaha. So this is the mantra. Now, what are the qualities of this Lord? So it is said here that this whole universe is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord. By his Maya, he appears in so many multitudinous forms, but his extent cannot be fathomed because he is infinite. Because of it being falsely perceived. Also, as a matter of fact, your own manifestation, this whole universe is the manifestation of the divine, but we don't see it as Bhagwan, we see it only as name and form. And so, though Bhagwan is all pervasive, all forms belong to him, we still don't recognize him, we still ask, where is God? Show me God. So that's why he says this. um, and also because it is, so this is one understanding. Other understanding is this whole thing is because of his Maya, so this is not real. Swarupa Bhagwan is real, Sachidananda Atma is real. Appearance, this whole universe is appearance. That's why the word Maya is there. And so this universe manifested by your Maya with countless varieties of forms is not your real form. And what is a real form? That cannot be perceived through the mind. It is beyond the mind. It is infinite consciousness. But who will perceive it? The devotee who has surrendered, who has made the mind single pointed and quiet, transcends the mind, comes to realize the truth. So the devotee can perceive. Now, when it is said devotee can perceive, others cannot perceive, does not mean that Bhagwan is partial. Okay, only those who worship me, I will give darshan to them, to others, I will not give. It is not like that. The devotee has got the necessary qualification, adhikara, and one has cultivated that through devotion, surrender, sadhana, and one is able to perceive in one's own heart and also see the Lord outside. With that, the bhav that I am serving Bhagwan. And so that is one aspect. Second aspect he says is different energies of Bhagwan are manifest through these different countless forms, though you are one without a second. And there is nothing greater than you, there is nothing beyond you. So what are these countless forms? Those which are born from the egg, those which are born from the ground, those which are born from moisture, those which are born from the womb. Then Devatas, apart from these are four which are on the earth. Then there are Devatas, then there are Gandharvas, then Pitrus, the uh, five elements, space, air, mountain, rivers, oceans, continents, planets, constellation, all these. So even though Bhagwan has endless number of forms, it is only one truth which is appearing as all this. So that's the whole point here. Now these are some of the qualities which are general qualities of Bhagwan, not only limited to the form as a Kurma. So though Bhagwan came as a Kurma, why did he come as Kurma? Because he had to support the Mandar mountain when this churning of the ocean was going on. They put the mountain and the mountain just slipped while they were churning. So Bhagwan became the Kurma, and again that Kurma avatar story will come further. And he held the whole mountain on the back. If Bhagwan was not there as the support of that mountain, churning itself would not have happened. If churning would not have happened, Amrit would not have come out. So one aspect is the form as Kurma. Where Bhagwan ensures that the churning happens, the Amrit is manifested. But who is that Lord who came as Kurma? These are the qualities. That one Supreme Lord who appears as the Kurma is the one who is appearing as the whole creation, so many forms. And yet all these are illusory. The real truth is beyond this. Nobody will know this Supreme. Only the devotee will realize the truth. And all these forms also are So what are the forms? So the forms on the earth, the forms in the heavens, the forms in the lower worlds, all of them are the forms of the divine. The devotee will see oneness in all of them. The non-devotee, as he says here, that being ignorant of your actual form, they only count different elements and they only see the duality. And he also says uh, that my salutations to you. So the Aryama worships Bhagwan not only as Kurma here, he also worships Bhagwan in the form of Kapila. So he says here that because Kapil Muni gave that Sankhya philosophy and where 24 tattvas are described, so he says that even though you possess a numberless variety of names and forms and shapes, yet a number of categories, 24, has been assumed in you by the seers like the divine Kapila. So the knowledge of truth by means of which this number is set aside is no other than you, the embodiment of true wisdom. So this knowledge who gave Kapil Muni is none other than you. That we saw in the earlier canto, how Kapil Muni is born to Kardam Rishi and Devahuti Mata and he is avatar of Bhagwan. So in this uh, Hiranmaya Varsha, Hiranmaya Varsha, Aryama worships Bhagwan. Main form is Kurma, but he also says you are the same Kapila who categorized the whole universe into 24 tattvas. He is worshipping two. Now comes the last one, where it is said that Varaha Deva is being worshipped. So Matsya avatar, Kurma avatar, now Varaha avatar. Narsimha already we saw. Vaman also we saw. So in different varshas, these different avatars of Bhagwan are being worshipped. So in the Uttar Kuru Varsha, Varaha Bhagwan is worshipped by Bhumi, Mother Earth. So here it comes. Uttareshu cha Kurushu Bhagavan Yajna Purushaha Krita Varaha Rupa Aste Tam tu Devi Haisha Bhuhu. Bhu means earth. Saha Kurubhihi Khalita Bhakti Yogena Upadhavati Imam cha Parama Paramam Upanishadam Avartayati. So Mother Earth is worshipping Bhagwan in the form of Varaha in this Uttar Kuru place. And what is the mantra? Om Namo Bhagavate Mantra Tattva Lingaya Yajna Kratave Mahadvara Avayavaya Mahapurushaya Namaha Karma Shuklaya Triyugaya Namaste. In the land of this northern Kurus, Mother Earth is worshipping with this mantra. What the mantra means? Salutations to the divine boar. Om Namo Bhagavate, who is Mantra Tattva Lingaya, who is denoted by the mystical syllable Om. All the three you see today, what we are seeing, all are indicated by Om. Truly known only through the mantras, through the Vedas. The deity presiding over sacrifices. Remember, we did that when Varaha avatar we saw. In brief, we saw that Varaha avatar is Yajna avatar. And so that's why here it comes Yajna Kratave. So he is a presiding over sacrifices both without and with a sacrificial post. And whose body, Varaha avatar, the form of Bhagwan, is constituted of the great sacrifices. So the form of Bhagwan itself is Yajna avatar. Then hail to the Supreme Person, hail to you who in the form of a sacrifice are pure. Of actions and who manifest yourself only in the last three yugas. Why last three yugas? Meaning in the Chaturyugi, Satyuga, it is said there are no sacrifices. Main sadhana which happens in Satyuga is Dhyan, Nididhyasan. Then Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, in that sacrifices happen. In that also, in the Treta Yuga, the Mukhya sadhana is Yajna. Then those yajnas also reduce. Today we don't do so many yajnas that were happening earlier. In Kali Yuga, the Mukhya sadhana is Nama Japa. And so here, that's why he says you are uh, worshipped in last three yugas. Who manifest yourself only in the last three yugas. So that is one reason that yajnas don't happen in Satyuga. So in other three yugas, today also we do yajnas, but not as elaborately as in the Treta Yuga it used to happen. So last three yugas. Then the another interpretation given here is that the Lord remains. So if you see Triyugaya Namaste is written. So two interpretations given here are, one interpretation is first yuga is omitted and Bhagwan is manifest in the three yugas only. Worship through yajna. And the second interpretation is Bhagwan is not manifest in the Kali Yuga because the mind is so much polluted. And so Bhagwan is manifest in the form of yajna in the first three yugas. So either the first three yugas are taken and last is omitted, or the first is omitted and the second, third, fourth are taken. So that's what he says here, that Triyugaya Namaste, salutations to the Lord who is worshipped, who is manifest in the Karma Shuklaya Triyugaya Namaste, worshipped in these three yugas. Now, all these different forms which are being worshipped, this chapter concludes by saying that just as a person churns fire, the earlier method of creating fire without any chemicals, etc., was Arni Manthan. The wood will be churned because the fire is dormant in the wood. So, just as a person churns fire from the pieces of wood, the learned people, the wise people, the devotees, they try to manifest you, they try to make you visible by performing actions dedicated to the Lord, meaning through the Yajna Bhavana. And so, um, Mathna, Manthanti, Mantha Manasa Didrikshavo Gudham Kriyarthair Nama Iritatmane. So here he says that wise people try to realize the self, just like the fire is hidden in the wood, and by the process of churning, it is brought out. In the same way, Bhagwan is in the hearts of all. And through this Yajna Bhavana, through the actions which are dedicated to Bhagwan, the Lord will reveal. If we don't dedicate the actions to the Lord remains dormant, unmanifest in us, and we live for I, me, and mine. He says you remain concealed by such indirect processes. Only when one is fully engaged in searching for you do you reveal yourself. So if one does karmas with the attitude of seva, I really want to know the truth. So for that I purify the mind, dedicate actions to Bhagwan, then Bhagwan will reveal. So that is one. Then he says that you create this whole universe by your own Maya, but you are not affected by it. So the sense objects, the senses, the devatas, the bodies, the time, the ego are all creations of your Maya. And those who are intelligent, those who practice bhakti, They can understand you uh, in your real form because they have done sadhana. She says, the Prithvi Mata says, I offer respects to you, that you are beyond Maya. Though your Maya creates all this, you are Maya Rahita. So, Nirasta Maya uh, Kritaye. Nirasta Maya Kritaye. Bhagwan uses the Maya, creates, like a magician creates the whole magic, but remains unaffected by the magic. Like that, Bhagwan creates. So she says, I salute you who are the Lord of Maya, who creates the universe using Maya, but who doesn't get affected by Maya. Then she says that this whole material creation is not your desire, but you create it for the Jiva to evolve. And the example given here is magnet is there, and then the iron will move as per the magnet. Where the magnet is moved, iron will get attracted there. It will keep moving. So that example is given here, that just as a piece of iron moves under the influence of a magnet, this entire inert power of the Lord, the inert material energy, moves by the grace of Bhagwan alone. So those who say, I believe in nature, I don't believe in God, Bhagwan only makes nature function. And the example given here is magnet and the iron. Of course, the example there has a limitation because both iron and the magnet are inert substances. But in this context, Bhagwan is consciousness and the other matter is inert. And Bhagwan is the one who enlivens it, controls it, and so it functions by the grace of Bhagwan. So she says, I offer respects to you, who is the witness of all the gunas and also of the karmas of the jiva. So Bhagwan is in the hearts of all. And as the witness, he only lends sentiency to the inert equipment, the body, mind, intellect, and as per the guna or the combination of sattva, rajas, tamas of that equipment will act. Without Bhagwan's presence, that will not act. But Bhagwan is not affected by any of them. Why? Because he is a sakshi. He is a sakshi of gunas also, sakshi of karma also. Meaning he is the enlivener. If good thoughts are there, consciousness illumines it. If bad thoughts are there, consciousness illumines it. It doesn't get affected by any. But the devotee who entertains good thoughts will be able to recognize that consciousness as my true self, as aham. Then the devotee realizes oneness. But by itself, consciousness is not affected. So she says, I worship you who are the supreme consciousness. And she also says, I worship you as the original boar, Adi Sukaraha. You fought and killed the demon Hiranyaksha. Varaha avatar, that's what Bhagwan did. And you lifted me from the Garbhodaka ocean on the end of your tusks. Exactly as a sporting elephant plucks a lotus flower, I bow down before you. Prithvi Mata is saying this, and hence, this is a beautiful stuti that she does. um, the exact analogy given here is that how from its very bottom, the ocean, sporting like an elephant after crushing to death in an encounter the demon who stood before him as a rival elephant. As though two elephants are fighting, two giants are fighting, Varaha avatar and Hiranyaksha. Both are compared to elephants, both fought. Bhagwan destroyed this Hiranyaksha and uplifted Mother Earth and brought him up, brought her up. Mam rasaya jagadadi sukaraha. That's the word given here. So now this uh, completes how many varshas now? So we have seen Ilavrata, Bhadrashva, Hari, Ketumal, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, and Kuru. So 7 Varshas are over. 2 more Varshas are left. And so that next chapter, it continues there. So who is worshipping whom there? Is Hanumanji. So beautiful now. So in this Kim Purusha Varsha, Hanumanji is worshipping Bhagwan Ram. So now we come to chapter 19. So in Kim Purusha Varsha, the foremost devotee of the Lord, Hanuman, who takes great pleasure in remaining by the side of his Lord's feet, adores with unremitting devotion, along with the denizens of that Varsha, along with the Kim Purushas, the most ancient person in the form of Lord Sri Ram, the elder brother of Lakshmana and the delighter of Sita. There, accompanied by Arstishena, the chief denizen of that particular Varsha, he listens with great interest the most auspicious story of his divine Lord, sung by the Gandharvas, and himself repeats the following. So Hanumanji listens to Ram Katha. Now this is the mantra which Hanumanji repeats to worship Bhagwan Ram. Serious mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Uttama Shlokaya Nama Arya Lakshana Sheela Vrataya Namaha Upashikshitatmanaha Upasita Lokaya Namaha Sadhu Vada Nikashanaya Namaha Nikashanaya Namo Brahmanya Devaya Mahapurushaya Maharajaya Namaha Iti. Hanumanji is doing japa of this mantra in Kim Purusha Varsha to worship Bhagwan Ram. Before I studied this portion and Bhagavatam in this detail, I also didn't know this mantra. We only think simple mantra, Ram, Ram, Ram. And no doubt it's a Maha Mantra, Ram. And two alphabets are enough. And there are other, of course, 108 names of Bhagwan Ram, all that is there. But this is a long, very huge, long mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Uttama Shlokaya Nama Arya Lakshana Sheela Vrataya Nama Upashikshitatmana Upasita Lokaya Namaha Sadhuvada Nikashanaya Namo Brahmanya Devaya Mahapurushaya Maharajaya Namaha. This is the mantra for Bhagwan Ram. It will be interesting on some Ram Navami, one of the Ram Navami occasions, one can chant this mantra even 11 times. Hanumanji is a great bhakta of Bhagwan, worshipping the Lord with this mantra. So what does this meaning? What is the meaning of this mantra? Hail to the Lord Sri Ram, the glorious Lord Sri Ram, denoted by the mystical syllable Om. See, Uttama Shlokaya Namaha. Hail to him who is possessed of noble characteristics and an ideal character and conduct. Arya Lakshana, Arya Sheela, Arya Vrata. Arya word has to connect to all the three, right? So, who is possessed of noble characteristics, ideal character and conduct. Then, hail to him who fully disciplined his self and followed the wishes of people. Upashikshitatmana, Upasita Lokaya Namaha. Then hail to him who is the very touchstone of reputation for goodness. Sadhuvada Nikashanaya Namaha. Then hail to the Lord who is resplendent with his devotion to the Brahmana race. Brahmanya Devaya Mahapurushaya, to the Supreme Person. Maharajaya, in the form of a great ruler. So that Supreme Lord only is a Supreme Person who has come, who has become Ram, who is worshipped, who is the great ruler, who put people before him, who sacrificed so much, who sent Sita ji away into the forest, who set the ideal for dharma. To that Lord, He says, I worship that Lord. So Hanumanji prays to Bhagwan with this mantra. And then who is this Bhagwan Ram? So he says here that I resort to him who is of the nature of pure consciousness. So Ram is not ordinary person. Ram is consciousness himself. The only entity who has by his own divine energy distanced his potency known by the word by the name Maya, who is other than this objective world and perfectly serene. Now, other than the objective world, meaning he is not limited by the names and forms, who is perfectly serene, meaning as Brahman is beyond all pairs of opposites, whose nature is peace, serenity, happiness, who can be realized only by those possessed of a pure mind and who transcends all material names and forms and is absolutely egoless. These are all glories of Bhagwan Ram. The descent of that omnipotent Lord in a human semblance on this earth is really intended to teach mankind the ways of the great and not merely to exterminate the demon race. It was not that to kill Ravan alone Bhagwan came. Bhagwan came for what? Bhagwan came for ensuring that the devotees follow dharma, people in general learn how to live the higher way of life. So he says that intended to teach mankind the ways of the great, meaning to teach mankind about dharma. Otherwise, how could there be any woes caused by separation from Sita to the Supreme Lord, the soul of the universe, reveling in his own blissful nature? Bhagwan separated from Mother Sita and taught people how dharma is more important than personal comfort. He came for that. Otherwise, he destroyed all the demons, Ravana and so many other Khara, Dushana, Nakabandha, and all of them, Viradha. Then he would have gone back. He did not have ruled. He need not have gone through the pain of sending Mother Sita away. So the main purpose was to teach people how to live in a dharmic way, and in that ensure that how put aside the personal desires for enjoyment and comfort, what is right, what is in the interest of the well-being of people, which will help them to evolve, which is dharma, just do that. Now we may think that he chose the higher dharma for the lower dharma, and so that is a sacrifice, which is true in one sense. But it is also important to understand that though he chose as a king, it is not that as a husband he sacrificed and he was not a good husband. So he chose being a good king over being a good husband. That is not true. As a husband also he did what was good only for Sita ji, because if she stays there, that atmosphere is so vicious. People will doubt her, suspect her, comment on her character, and she is pregnant. She should have a sattvic mind. She should not be listening to all this. And she had asked Bhagwan Ram that I am missing the satsang which we used to have earlier when we were in the forest. So Bhagwan sent her to the outskirts of Valmiki Rishi's ashram. He didn't abandon her. He didn't tell her get out of this place. He told Lakshmanji clearly drop her outside Valmiki's ashram. Because that is her desire to have satsang. She will be away from these people. She will grow up in a sattvic environment. Her children will grow up in a sattvic environment. Yes, there is a pang of separation, no doubt. But we should not think that he was a bad husband and he chose being a good king over being a husband. He chose dharma and he was a good husband also. People may or may not understand it if they think only from their standpoint. That is our problem. Because we don't think only from a higher standpoint, a society standpoint, dharma standpoint, and the standpoint of the Lord. What is Bhagwan's standpoint? His job, why did he come down? That main purpose is he came down for dharma samsthapana. And that purpose has to be fulfilled. Yes, there is pain, no doubt. And in that, he is also fulfilling the curse Naraji had given to him that you will be separated from your wife in one of your avatars. So he took upon that curse upon himself and is exhausting it. So from all standpoint, if you see what Bhagwan did was correct. And that's why he says here that Bhagwan came here to establish dharma, not to kill only the demons, because if he had to kill only demons, he need not have gone through the pain caused by the separation. This is all Hanumanji is saying, okay? Then he says, he is the same as Lord Vasudeva, the greatest friend, the very self of all the wise men, not attached to anything in the three worlds. He is not attached to Sita ji also, he is not attached to power also, he is not attached to Dharma also, not attached to Lakshman ji, not attached to anyone. And that's why he is able to do what it needs to be done, whether people understand or not. Bhagwan did not give an opportunity to people to compromise in their dharma. Even if people talk bad about him, it doesn't matter, he set the right standard. Nobody can give an excuse later on that if the king has accepted the queen after she has stayed with Ravan, then we have to accept quietly whatever wives do. No question of them giving that excuse and doing any compromise. They may not like it that a king set such a high standard, and then people talk anything against Bhagwan Ram. But the beauty in that is he did not give the opportunity for anybody to compromise. He saved the name of Sita ji. Nobody asks anything about Sita ji. They all ask only about Bhagwan Ram. Why did he do that? He is not a good husband. He should not have done that. Bhagwan said doesn't matter. I am not attached to good image about myself. People should think only good about me. He's not bothered about it. So that's why Hanumanji says not attached to anything. He could not therefore give way to infatuation occasioned by separation from his consort, nor could he abandon Lakshmana. Now, what is the context of this? The context is just like he banished, he sent Sita ji away to Valmiki's ashram, he had to send Lakshman ji also away. Now, see this. So, in Ramayana, what happens? Yamraj actually comes to Bhagwan to tell him that now is your time, please come back to your abode. And so when he comes, he tells Bhagwan that nobody should disturb us. And Lakshmanji is put outside by Bhagwan saying that you guard and don't allow anybody inside. If anybody comes inside, the punishment is death. So he says here that Lakshmana guarded the entrance under the orders of the Lord, who had strictly warned him not to enter the room himself, nor allow anyone else to do so under any circumstance, adding that anyone who did so would be beheaded by him. Meanwhile, the irascible sage Durvasa appeared on the scene and peremptorily demanded that the Lord should at once be apprised of his presence, threatening to curse him if Lakshman declined to do so. Durvasa Muni will curse Bhagwan Ram if Lakshmanji doesn't go and tell him that Durvasa Muni has come. Now Lakshmanji says he is preferred to be killed by his divine brother rather than invite the sage's curse on Bhagwan and inform Bhagwan of his arrival. The sage was then ushered into the Lord's presence and respectfully dismissed after being duly entertained. The Lord now felt very miserable when he thought of the terrible fate which awaited Lakshmana, and he remained mute. He then summoned his counselors and invited their opinion, whereupon the sage Vasishtha exhorted him to exile Lakshmana, which was as good as beheading him. The Lord accepted the advice of his preceptor and did accordingly. So Bhagwan sent away Lakshmanji also. He sent Mother Sita away, he sent Lakshmanji away also. Both of them were sent away to the forest. For Lakshmanji to be separated from Bhagwan is greater than death. And he sent. Why would he do that? Because Vachan Purti. Though it is not a fault of Lakshmanji, but this was the condition, what was said, that if he comes in or if he allows anybody else to come in, he would have to die. Now one has to keep up that word. So Hanumanji says that is, so why did Bhagwan send Sita ji away and Lakshmanji? To set the standard for dharma. That's what is the main point here. That except in order to teach the world the ways of the great, meaning the dharmic way, Bhagwan had no other reason why to send Sita ji away and Lakshman ji away. Indeed, neither pedigree, nor physical charm, nor eloquence, nor intellectual caliber, nor again race is conducive to the pleasure of that Supreme Being, for Sri Ram admitted to his friendship even us, the wild beasts, monkeys, bereft of all these qualifications. Meaning Bhagwan doesn't discriminate and he doesn't look at all these, Janma, Saubhagam, Vang, Buddhihi, Akritihi, none of these. So he says Bhagwan sees only what? He sees only devotion. Therefore, whether a god or a demon, a monkey or a human being, whatever one may be, one should resort for protection with all one's being to the noblest Sri Ram, who is Lord Hari himself in this human form. So don't ever think that Ram is an ordinary human being, just like you and me. Ram is only a great leader, and we can also become like Ram. Why don't hype him up to be God? He, after all, a human being, a greater human being who followed values. Bhagwan came in that form of Ram. So he is the Lord only. He may live human values, he may show us how to live human uh, life in a dharmic way, in spite of emotional turbulence, in spite of most provocative situations, how to not swerve from dharma, to teach us that he came. But doesn't mean he is a human being. Just like he is not a fish, he is the Lord in the form of a fish. He is not a boar, he is the Lord in the form of a boar. In the same way, he is not a human, he is the Lord in the form of a human. Otherwise, today people want to rationalize everything as per their buddhi, thinking they are great. And they have brought some logical, acceptable explanation. Delusion only, that is. If we think that Ram is a human being, like anybody else, he is Bhagwan in the human form. And Hanumanji is saying that. Who is supremely conscious of services done to him, and who, while returning to his abode, led all the Ayodhya Vasis to heaven. So he says, the people of North Kosala, Bhagwan took all of them, they all disappeared into Saryu Nadi and went to their abode. First of all, Bhagwan's body is not like our body. It is not made up of 5 elements. Bhagwan's body is made up of consciousness. The means, so Bhagwan goes into the Saryu, is not that he committed suicide. People are deluded to think like that. Why did Ram commit suicide? His life was a failure. He was not a happy man. He kept crying whole life and he committed suicide finally. Are such dullness. Bhagwan's body is not like our body. He is not born like us. Whole life his body doesn't function like our body. It is only Chaitanya Swarup. And so he does the Leela, goes into the Saryu Nadi and rises from it, goes back to his divine abode and takes all the Ayodhya Vasis also to the Saket Lok. So it is not to be thought like us. That because when we die, that body will remain. Bhagwan's body is not found. It is not that body is down and then Atma comes out and then it goes somewhere. Bhagwan's case, that doesn't happen. With the body only he goes, because it's consciousness only. So there is no physical remains of the body. Physical body remains will not be there only because there is no physical body there. Chidanandamaya deha tumhari. Like Tulsidas ji says, his body is Chidanandamaya. It is full of consciousness. It is not flesh. And so Hanumanji says this now. Now comes the last Varsha. So the 9 Varshas which are there, in that 8 we saw. Now is the last Varsha, which is where Nara-Narayana are worshipped. So is the Bharat Varsha, and who is worshipping? Narad Muni is worshipping. Bharatepi Varshe Bhagavan Nara-Narayanakhya Akalpantam Upachita Dharma Jnana Vairagya Aishwarya Upashamo Paramatmopa Lambhanam Anugrahayat Anugrahayatmavatam Anukampaya Tapo Avyakta Gatish Charati. So, again, in order to shower His grace on those who have controlled their mind, the Lord compassionately practices in Bharata Varsha under the name of Nar and Narayan till the end of the Kalpa. His movements remaining unperceived, austerities which, while enhancing one's religious merit, enlightenment, aversion to the pleasure of the sense, yogic power, self-control and freedom from egotism lead to self-realization. In Bharat Varsha, Bhagwan is doing penance. See, in other Varshas, the denizens of that place, led by one particular person, worships the Lord in a particular form. No doubt in Bharat Varsha also, Naradji is worshipping Nar-Narayan Rishi. But the Nara-Narayana themselves also are engaged in austerities. For what? For all this, what we saw, no? Unperceived austerities they are doing, which will enhance the merit, which will lead to enlightenment, which will create vairagya from the sense pleasure, which will give yogic power, self-control, freedom from ego, and lead to realization. Bhagwan is setting that example on the earth by practicing austerities in Badrinath, intending to instruct Savarni, one of the prospective Manus who is going to preside over the next or 8th Manvantara in the Pancharatra Agama. Pancharatra is a devotional text which elaborates the science of bhakti, as well as in the principles of Sankhya and Yoga as taught by the Lord himself in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The glorious Narada, along with the people of Bharatvarsha who follow the rules of Varna Ashrama Dharma, adores the Lord with a feeling of supreme devotion. So Naradji, along with the people of Bharatvarsha, they adore the Supreme Lord. And what is the mantra? Now see, Om Namo Bhagavate Upashamashilaya Upara Tanatmyaya Namo Akinchana Vittaya Rishi Rishabhaya Nara-Narayanaya Paramahamsa Paramagurave Atma Ramadhipataye Namo Namaha Iti. If you go to Badrinath, chant this mantra to invoke Bhagwan Nara-Narayana. As many times as one wants. 5 times, 11 times, 108 times. Naradji himself is using this mantra. And Nara-Narayan Rishi. So what does this mantra say? Hail to the Lord, denoted by the mystical syllable Om. This is one common thing in all. And that's why Omkar is the most powerful mantra. All the forms of Bhagwan are indicated as Omkar. So hail to the Lord denoted by the mystical syllable Om, who is given to self-control, is absolutely free from the attributes of the body and the senses. Hail to Nara-Narayana, the foremost of sages, the wealth of those who have nothing to call their own. See that. Akinchana Vittaya, meaning who are not attached to anything. They don't even call their body as their own, who are so detached. He is a wealth of such people. Then, um, hail, hail to the supreme teacher of ascetics of the highest order and the lord of those who revel in the self. Paramahamsa Paramagurave. Hmm. And Atma Rama Adhipataye. Those who are reveling in the self is the guru of those. Namo Namaha iti. Means Bhagwan as Nara-Narayana is the guru of all those great yogis. The supreme teacher of ascetics of the highest order and the lord of those who revel in the self. And then he sings, what are the glories of this Lord? And so he says here that hail to him who, though the maker of this universe, does not get bound to the functions of the creation, who, though invested with a body, is not affected by the attributes of a body like hunger and thirst, etc., and whose vision, though he is all seeing, is not tainted by the qualities of what he sees, who is absolutely unattached, pure, and a mere witness. Indeed, herein, O Master of Yoga, lies the proficiency in yoga, of which the glorious Brahma has spoken, that having given up identification with the body, one should concentrate one's mind on you who are beyond the modes of Prakriti. Brahmaji says one should drop all the other attachment and focus the mind on the Supreme Lord. At the last moment of one's life, through practice of devotion, one will attain the Supreme. Meaning, through life also take the name of the Lord, and definitely at the last moment, abide the mind in the Supreme Lord, who is purest, who is unattached, who is beyond all modifications of Prakriti. All effort is a mere fruitless labor on the part of him who, though learned, is afraid of the loss of his body. Meaning, yeah, one may be very learned, but if one doesn't have detachment from the body, all that effort of learning is useless. Why? Because if body identification is there, it will lead to more further and further cycles of birth and death. So what to do? Detach from the body and fix the mind in Bhagwan. The Lord alone is the true self. So he says, like an and the analogy given is like an ignorant person who is addicted to the pleasure of this world, as well as of that, and anxious about his son's wife and possessions. So if detachment has not come from the body, one is thinking I am this body, then one will have attachment to things, the children, the wife, the relatives, all of them. Therefore, administer you to us that remedy in the form of loving devotion to you. Only bhakti will help us to remember. See, either high level of vairagya has to be there or deepest bhakti should be there, that we surrender to Bhagwan and remember that Bhagwan alone is there, which is the truth. Body is anyway perishable, it will drop. If we drop the body, we will go only to the Lord. The devotee who continuously remembers the Lord becomes one with the Lord only. That's why he says in the Gita, no, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yap prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya. There is no doubt that person will come to me. So through devotion, one can remember the Lord, and that's the devotion that Naraji is praying, that please bless us with that devotion. Because all knowledge and how much ever we know scriptures will not come to our rescue if we don't know, if we don't surrender to Bhagwan. So he says, whereby we may be able to shake off soon, O Lord, the feeling of I and mine with respect to this material body, which is so difficult to renounce because of your Maya. Your Maya is so powerful that it doesn't allow us to renounce. So you bless us with devotion, then we will be able to do this. So this way, in Bharatavarsha, also this prayer is going on by Naradji. Which means what? Here it is said by Naradji and all the denizens of Bharatvarsha, they are praying to Nara-Narayana in this way. So we should ask, are we praying? So 9 Varshas we have seen, 9 Varshas, 9 different deities, Bhagwan's forms are being worshipped. In that Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, only Vaman and Parshuram are not in this. And then we have Bhagwan Ram also. So now further the description will continue. Shukadevji Maharaj will continue. After that, what happens after this description of 9 Varshas, we'll take up in our next class. Any questions for today? Yes.
So, Swamiji, you said that Bhagwan only makes nature function. And then you also said that consciousness illumines the good and the bad. So, can you just elaborate a little why then the fury of nature?
Why the fury of nature?
Huh.
See,
Sometimes yes.
the fury of nature, because that's how the Prakriti is. Now, Prakriti will not work only in one creation. Na? There has to be sustenance and destruction both, right? So, creation, sustenance, destruction, all will happen. If the fury of nature is not there, how will new creation come about? If the destruction doesn't happen, new creation can't happen, no? That is one. Second, fury of nature also makes us realize that how powerful is nature and how insignificant we are. Otherwise, we have big ego. Human beings, though, we live as though we are the controller of everything. How much destruction we have caused in nature, unnecessary. One little thing of nature and one little shake of the earth and we are finished. All our buildings collapse, earthquake happens, people die, and we still think that we are great. So fury of nature is Bhagwan's way of reminding us that you are, who are you? In front of Prakriti, we are nothing. Yet, if we realize that simple fact that I am not this body, mind and intellect, through humility, surrender, what do we come to realize? I am Mayapati, I am one with the Lord. So nature's fury can be understood in both ways. If I am very full of myself and ego, then nature's fury will humble me out. And if I say that this is Prakriti, which is the power of Bhagwan, so I will take creation, sustenance and destruction as his Leela and surrender to that Lord and then come to realize oneness with Bhagwan. Okay. So let's do the Arati.
मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की मंगल प्रीति रीति धूम की मंगल कांति हसनी दसनन की मंगल मुरली दीना धुन की मंगल आरती मंगल बणिक त्रिभंगी हरि की मंगल सेवा सब सहचर की मंगल सिर चंद्रिका मुकुट की मंगल छवि नयन में अटकी मंगल आरती पभी अंग अंग की मंगल गौर श्याम रंग की मंगल अति कटि पियरे पट की मंगल चितमणि नागर नट की मंगल आरती मंगल शोभा कमल नयन की, मंगल माधुरी मृदुल बैन की, मंगल वृंदावन मद अटकी, मंगल क्रीडन जमुना तट की, मंगल आरती। मंगल चरण अरुण तरुवन की, मंगल करणी भगति हरिजन की, मंगल जुगल प्रिया बावन की, मंगल श्री राधा जीवन की, मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की, मंगल प्रीति रीति डोल की, मंगल आरती मंगल आरती। राधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम, नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयम् अग्निः, तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं, तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
So there are some questions here. Please, can you tell us the 24 tattvas? So 24 tattvas as per Sankhya are Prakriti, Mahat, Ahankar, Mind, 4. Then the 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Tanmatras and 5 great elements, Panchamahabhutas. All these are the 24 tattvas. Please, could you expand on the Nar-Nari concept? What is Nar-Nari concept? Nar-Nari means what? Man and woman. If you are meaning Ardhanarishwara, I don't know. That only means to say that Bhagwan is a combination of Purusha and Prakriti. Ishvara is a combination of Purusha and Prakriti, where Purusha is not a human. There, Nar-Nari does not mean human, half woman. I mean, half man, half woman. Ardhanarishwara means Purusha and Prakriti come together. That. So, that is a depiction to understand how the Srishti happens. Purusha is consciousness, Prakriti is the inert matter, Prakriti is enlivened by Purusha, and Purusha is taking the help of Prakriti, then only the Srishti will happen. That is the Ardhanari concept. What you just spoke about just now in Badrinath, Nar-Narayana concept, Baba, it is not Nar-Nari concept. Nar-Narayana is the form of Bhagwan where Bhagwan manifests as 2 rishis, Nar Rishi and Narayan Rishi, and he is meditating there in Badrinath, and for that one has to that is the mantra which is given here in Bhagavatam, where Naradji is worshipping Bhagwan through that particular mantra, what we just saw in that Bharat Varsha. So in Badrinath is where Bhagwan meditates, and so if you go to Badrinath, one should chant that mantra and pray to Nar-Narayan Rishi, because there is where Bhagwan is meditating. So that's what I said. Is devotion enough or austerity needed to realize the divine within? Devotion also will have austerity within it, because without austerity, if the mind is sensual, the devotion will not stay. Austerity does not mean torturing oneself. Austerity means tapas, which is to destroy tamoguna, which is to live in sense control, which is to sublimate the desires to Bhagwan, which is to drop aside I, me and mine, The highest tapas is to drop down the ego, and only then bhakti will arise. So tapas does not mean that I should not eat food for a long time, I should sit below some tree, I should not take bath for a long time, all that. That is not the austerity that somebody can do to, because they may have a certain level of vairagya, etc. But otherwise, the tapasya is drop the extrovertedness of the senses, surrender the cravings to Bhagwan, focus more on developing love for the Lord, remember the katha of Bhagwan, do the nam japa of Bhagwan, all that. That is austerity. If one is doing bhakti at the same time, completely living an indulgent lifestyle, there is no way that bhakti will become deep. And that's why austerity and devotion have to go together. In fact, austerity and any spiritual sadhana has to go together. Whether it's jnana marg, yoga marg, karma marg, anything. Should one emulate the guru or only follow his advice? First of all, guru must be living the advice that guru is giving. If the guru is not following that, then better it is to stick to the advice that the scripture gives and follow that. If the guru is following that, living it, anyway, don't blindly emulate. If the guru is living it, then also ensure that what the advice is given based on the shastra, one follows that advice. And there's no question of blindly emulating anybody. Even Shankaracharya ji says that if I say that fire is cold, you should not accept it. You should reject it. This is our culture, where just because something is said does not mean I will blindly accept it. If it does not appeal, I can ask questions. I don't understand it, I can ask questions. I can try to understand all that. But I don't have to blindly emulate somebody. Follow what the guru is saying based on the scriptures, and if the guru is living that, then that is the best. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.